This is CL Brown from the Field House, and you're listening to 35 KY Sports. Like, I grew up there in a sense, in terms of, as a reporter. Because when I got there, we had a great staff, Pat Forty and Rick Bozis were the columnists. Ashley McGahee, when I first got there, Ashley McGahee was the U of L beat writer. She went on to Philly, the Inquirer, to cover the Eagles before she went to ESPN after that. We just had so many people come through, man.
Wasn't Bozick and all them on there too? Rick Bozick?
Yeah, Bozick was there. Yeah. We just had we had a lot of people that I learned a lot from working with, and we had a great staff. So my time there was like priceless, and of course, basically being there is what led me to have the opportunity to work for ESPN.com for 4 years, and then I got laid off as part of their. I don't even know what to call it, man. I got laid off in April. So, I was also fortunate enough to get picked up by the Field House. And it's, this is all brand new for us at the Field House, this whole year of college basketball. We're under the umbrella of theathletic.com. And it's really exciting to be a part of right now. It's all subscription based, but I feel like Suge Knight every time I go through this spiel about the Athletic, because it's like, you want to go to a website with no video, pop up ads, you know what I'm saying? No advertisement. Come to the Athletic. So, we're trying to do some big things there, and I'm just hoping everything catches on.
So, how'd you even get into a career of covering sports? Like what's your background? Give us a little bit where you came from, how you grew up and went to high school, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, originally. I probably, even before I kind of knew what I wanted to do in life in general, I look back at it now in retrospect, like basically sports reporting was what I was supposed to be doing, because I would watch ACC basketball games that they televised, and I would keep my own box score. I would just jot down the names, and obviously this was before the internet, and I could just look up a roster and write stuff down or whatever. I literally, for most of the teams, I would have to pay attention to the starting lineup. I'd have to listen to the announcers, and try and write fast and spell people's names right and that kind of stuff. So I definitely grew up on ACC basketball, and I would say out of all sports, college basketball was always kind of my favorite, the thing that I paid most attention to. I'm also, I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So that didn't sound like a good
It ain't because of you. It's other reasons. Are you pro keeping Tomlin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No reason to switch it up, huh?
Nah, he's frat, too. So... I feel like I the seed was planted way back when I'd be watching those games and stuff. So I went to University of North Carolina, graduated my degree actually was in it was a broadcast sequence of journalism. It wasn't print, but I had fun in college. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't really thinking about how I needed to kind of network and get some internships and kind of prepare myself for graduation so that I could get some kind of job coming out. I just figured I would have a degree and somebody was going to hire me. You know what I mean? There was a little bit of arrogance to it. So, so I got humbled real quick when then nobody hired me when I came out. So I probably spent the summer, basically the whole summer at home, just kind of working around. And when at the end of the summer, that summer in August, I got an offer for a small newspaper in North Carolina, in the town of Rocky Mount. And Rocky Mount's really only known for a couple of things. One is Phil Ford, former University of North Carolina point guard, and Buck Williams, former Maryland forward. Both of them played in the league for a while and everything. both of them came from Rocky Mount. And at one point, I think Rocky Mount might be where Hardy started from. I don't remember all of the story, the background on that, but I'm pretty sure that's where Hardy started. So that's kind of Rocky Mount's claim to fame. There's nothing else to it. But it gave me a good start. You know, I was still able to cover college basketball. It's about 2 hours from the triangle with, you know, Carolina, Duke, and NC State. So I was still very much a part of basically still cultivating the college basketball network that I was, you know, but I eventually wanted to only do college basketball. So, you know, I even look at that start in newspapers as something that helped me get to that end. So, you know, I bounced around a little bit more, I worked in Charlotte for about 3 years. I worked in Columbus, Georgia for about a year. And before I came to the Courier Journal in 2000, and I worked there for 13 years. Part of the time I was there, I covered Indiana University and lived in Bloomington for those 3 years that I did that. And I took over the U of L beat at the end of, it was like the 2008-2009 season when I first started covering U of L. And I was on that beat until I left to go to ESPN.com. So kind of a long-winded answer, but that's just kind of how I got to where I am now.
No, that's all good. Plus, you have a very unique perspective, seeing I guess I would call it the heart of basketball, college basketball, and the triangle you spoke of. Coming to Louisville and seeing the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry, and then also your time covering the Hoosiers. So I kind of got to get what's your take on like each fan base and just the craziness around. What are the differences you see?
Wow, that's a good question. I feel like in the triangle, it's a lot more laid back. Yeah, I feel like the Carolina Duke rivalry, it's not really there's a corner of the fan bases that it's about hate, but I feel like because they play each other so often, like, you know, obviously you're going to play at least twice a year. Last year they played 3 times and met in the HD tournament. Like, no, you're never going to be on top of that rivalry because at some point you're going to lose. Like, no matter how much you think, you know, what kind of momentum you think you have, the other team, the other program is always going to win. So it's like you got to kind of temper your trash talk. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, Carolina people can talk a little smack because they won the first meeting, but they still got to go in Cameron. And, you know, I feel like Duke will win at home. So, you know, like who ultimately, there's nobody who's on top at the end of the day. It's you know, fairly even all the way around. So I think that kind of, and because they've been playing so long, like I think that kind of sets the tone for the rivalry. Whereas UK and U of L, you know, they went that long period without playing at all. Kentucky kind of had the, you know, they tried to play like they were too good to play U of L, you know, for a while.
That sounds like you got a different opinion on that.
I mean, I call it like I see it, man. I felt like, well, I'm not getting into that, but I feel like from outside looking in that, you know, I mean, I felt like there was some racial undertones to it. You know, and just like in the failure to acknowledge U of L as an equal for a while, you know. I mean, but that was back in the day, but
still
you know.
Y'all women's basketball school.
I feel like the hatred is more real in U of L UK. Like I feel like that fuels a lot more of that rivalry. But in terms of the passion and stuff, you know, that's where I feel like there's a lot of that kind of evens out. I mean, even at North Carolina State, which they hadn't won as much recently, I'm telling you, Kevin Keats is going to get it done there, though. Like they're going to turn that around basketball wise. Yeah. Yeah, they. That's going to be interesting. I'll say that. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if U of L actually tries to make a run at them or if NC State just tries to lock them up at the end of the season, because it looks like they're going to make the NCAA tournament, so which nobody expected at the beginning of the year. Yeah. And if they say they did, they lying.
I don't know how he's doing that there. He doesn't have, that roster's not great or anything that he's got.
But when they beat Arizona, you knew they had potential.
Yeah. They had potential, but I feel like he's had to overcome a lot just changing the culture there. Like, because I wouldn't say they expect to win until kind of Keats got in there. You know what I mean? Until they won a few games and the confidence grew. Like at the end of the Clemson game, they're up double digits against Clemson at home, and Clemson made a huge run. Like, they kind of fell apart at the end of the game. They ended up hanging on to win. And after the game, Keats said he told the kids in the locker room that they need to start expecting to win. Because he was like, they weren't used to just closing out people, and they got a little too happy near the end of the game when, it seemed like they had done enough to win, and that's what allowed Clemson to get back in the game. So he's changed the culture there, within the course of this season, and it just looks like they're going to be on the rise in the next few years. But even that fan base is I would say as passionate as Indiana or anybody else. That's where I feel like it kind of all evens out.
And we're talking with C.L. Brown, staff writer for the Fieldhouse, NCAA basketball with Seth Davis.
We have to formally welcome you on. So let me go ahead and do my introduction. We jumped into the conversation. It was good. Let me welcome C.L. Brown to the 35KY Sports Show. We appreciate you coming on, giving us some time this Sunday on your day off, man. How's everything going?
Hey, ain't no days off.
I know that in this business. It's grinding.
I'm working soon as we hang up. But no, it's. I appreciate you guys having me on. This all is good. I was able to make it back home from the U of L and North Carolina game last night. So it's we on the home stretch of the season now. So it's like every game matters.
Yes, sir. So jumping into that, it was a big game last night in Louisville. The Tar Heels came in for an 8 o'clock primetime battle with the Cards. Pretty much controlled the game wire to wire. 93-76 victory by the Tar Heels. Kind of just give me your thoughts on that game last night, particularly the atmosphere. Did it feel a little different in the KFC Yum Center? I know North Carolina kind of took the air out the building with their play, just how they just sprinted out in front and never looked back. But just kind of your thoughts on last night's matchup.
Well, it's interesting that you ask about the atmosphere, because I felt like, now obviously I've only been there once since I left in 2013. I came back when North Carolina played there in I guess it was the 2015 season or 2016 when Carolina was up maybe 13-15 and U of L came back to win in overtime. It's a great game, great atmosphere that day, but I felt like it was a weird feeling in the KFC Yum Center, because before the tip-off, like I felt like for a potential big game like it was, like for it to be a North Carolina game, not like it's Wake Forest or somebody coming in, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I've had no disrespect to Wake Forest, but you know what I'm saying? So I felt like it was missing something. I almost felt like there wasn't the typical kind of joy or typical kind of buzz, you know what I mean?
And it was a whiteout as well.
That you feel, yeah. And from talking to people, they said that, that was one of the best crowds this year, and it was better than it's been in some other games. But it just, compared to previous seasons, to me, there just seemed to be something missing. Like it just didn't seem like people were enjoying themselves like I'm used to seeing them enjoy it, regardless of the outcome of the game. It just seems like normally, U of L fans would come into that arena, even if they think it's going to be a tough game and maybe they're not going to win or whatever, there would still be a buzz, and there would be it just felt different, man. It just felt different. Like, I think there's a bit of fatigue from all the stuff that has happened. And I think that's maybe taking a little bit of the joy out of the game for some people, that go to the games now. But it was interesting with U of L's lineups, where I felt like maybe they should go small, like on a more regular basis, because it didn't really seem like, now maybe Mahmoud just didn't have that was just one of those games where he just didn't come to play. He was just out of sync. But I felt like offensively, they could get away with playing 4 guards and playing Ray Spalding as the five. I definitely feel like they need to me last night, Ray Spalding should have touched the ball on every possession he was in the game. On every possession. Everything should go through him. Because they had a size advantage, and obviously he had 18 and 12 rebounds, so he was getting it done when they got him the ball. But I didn't feel like they went to him enough, So especially to have, Theo Pinson is 6'6". Now Theo Pinson got a lot of heart, and he actually played Marvin Bagley when they played Duke, and Bagley ended up, I think, with 18 that game, but it's not like he had a monster game, and and obviously Carolina won that game against Duke. So it's funny to me how it's almost like Carolina's getting away with playing, such an undersized guy at power forward. But I feel like some of it just has to do with the generation we're in right now in basketball, and it's about guard play and it's about small ball. And it's like people forget about the big man. You know what I mean? Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, really. Not even that far back. If you had a mismatch like that, you would exploit it. There would the big man would be eating that game because, they're going to give him the ball. But I feel like nowadays, these kids just kind of, I don't know what it is. They just don't. They don't take advantage of it. They don't go to it as much as they should. So that was one of my observations from watching Louisville. What did you guys think?
Man, looking at Louisville on the season, the game last night reminded me a lot of the Kentucky game. Outside of Louisville, just scored a little bit more. Their output was just a little bit better. But just the total domination from North Carolina, just leading the whole way like that, and how early on, and you kind of spoke of it a little bit on the coaching aspect, Padgett never used the timeout when I felt like the game was getting a little bit away from him in North Carolina early, where we had to withstand that early punch that Carolina came out the gate with, leading 12-3 early, extending it to 19-6, and so on to a 40-21 lead about midway through the first half. And at that point, I felt like substitutions, timeouts should have been, Padgett blow them. You got 4 in the first half. Let's use them. Let's get different bodies in there. Obviously, something wasn't working. And that's kind of just been my bone to pick with the Cardinals this season, as far as just in the big matchups, guys not showing up, and kind of just, the youthfulness of Coach Padgett showing in these matchups with these Hall of Fame coaches, which is to be expected.
Well, I felt like they, for the first half, for Carolina to come out like they did, which the funny thing about it is, and I tweeted, that was the best start that they've had in a road game all year, which maybe they kind of had that kind of a start against Stanford, but Stanford isn't as good as Louisville is, like in terms of the competition, for this to be a relatively big game, they came out well. They came out on fire. And what to me was an aberration in all that was when you saw Theo Pinson hit a 3-pointer. he was 5 of 35 coming into the game. Like it's so bad. It's to the point where even at home, when he pulls up for a 3, the whole arena, like you can audibly hear in the arena people like gasping, like, like don't do it, don't take it, So Theo Pinson pulls up for 3 and knocks it down like that. When you see signs like that, you're like, oh man, like Louisville might be in for it tonight if Pinson was pulling up hitting 3. So it was part of the aberration, the fast start that they got off to. But I also felt like U of L adjusted well and was able to get back in the game. You know, they closed out that first half on a pretty good, on an uptick really. And, you know, to be able to go in the locker room down just 9, I thought was a small victory for U of L. And, you know, I mean, Pat just said it after the game. Like, offensively, if you score 76 points, you should, at home, you know, you would think you'd be able to win a game like that. You would at least be in position to win. And you look at just a couple of bang plays that happened, maybe the tide turns. I mean, you had Luke May throwing up a 3-pointer when the shot clock was about to expire, just off balance and, you know, off of 1 foot that goes in. You know, you had the play where Ray Spalding gets the breakaway, and it looks like he's going to cut the lead down to 5. And out of nowhere, Joel Berry catches up to him and blocks the shot. I still haven't seen the replay of that because, you know, some people on Twitter were saying it was a foul.
Look clean. It looked clean.
It was clean?
Yeah,
okay.
It looked clean.
Yeah, I couldn't tell because I was at the opposite end of the court looking down. So, but still, like, so if they get that basket instead of a block, you know what I mean? It's a 5-point game. The crowd is back in it, and who knows how it plays out. Like I feel like the actual final score isn't indicative. Yeah, Carolina led, you know, most of the game, start to finish, but it got away at the end. Like, this wasn't a 17-point loss. You know what I mean? Like, it was a closer game than that, and there were some plays to be made in that decisive point of the game, and Carolina, just everything went Carolina's way, and it didn't go Louisville's way. So I still don't think they're playing poorly. I still don't believe, like some people I was talking to around the game, we're talking NIT. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Louisville will be an NCAA team when all is said and done.
Now, you spoke earlier on how the crowd in the arena felt different than any other Louisville game. What's a couple differences in the team that you see with Coach Padgett running the team compared to when you was covering Louisville with Rick Pitino?
Well, I don't know. I think that's an unfair comparison. You know what I mean? Like, Padgett is learning as he goes along here, and this team, I feel like what's missing is just like a consistent leader on this team. And I thought coming into the season that Dan Goodell could be that guy to kind of put it down. And from some accounts, it seems like he's tried to step up to be more of a leader. But I don't think he's probably been as consistent as he's needed to be in terms of just being that. Well, I shouldn't put it like that, because he's been consistent scorer, but I mean, it takes more than that to really lift the team and lead a team. And so I don't think he's been able to do that for them this year. And I really don't see anybody else who's been able to this year either. And I think given all that happened before the season and Pitino's out and, you know, just all the off-court stuff they had to deal with, you really need somebody from the players to step up in a situation like that, you know, to kind of carry it. And so that's what I just feel like has been missing there. And plus, though, these kids, man, they've been through, you know, you look at somebody like Quentin Snyder, I mean, they've been through it all over the course of his 4 years there. You know, nothing is really, when he signed to go to U of L, you know, I mean, obviously he wasn't expected to have this many twists and turns. You know, it's just been him having to adapt year after year, just about. So
there should be more motivation to go even harder this year, right?
I mean, at some point, man, it can wear on you, you know, and it's one thing to go hard. Like, I don't feel like there was a lack of effort last night. You know what I'm saying? Like, they played hard, but, you know, at some point, it's like, you just get tired, man. You know what I mean? Like, mentally, you just get tired. And so, I still think they have a lot of fight, but it's just, you know, I just feel like there's something missing. You know, there's something missing on the team.
Pitino. Or BJ King.
BJ King has went like Ghost, like for real. Like he's just like Bill Cosby in the movie Ghost. It's like he just disappears, man. Like what? So from what you saw last night, just in my opinion, it just seems like Louisville doesn't show toughness consistently. Do you think that they can kind of acquire some toughness within the next 2 weeks? I mean, we're at the end of the season. Can you even do that?
Yeah, I mean, we're like you said, we're at the end of the season. So if they don't have it now, they're not going to have it. You know, this team, they are who they are. So sometimes they'll have it, sometimes they won't. I expect they're going to have it Wednesday night at Duke, or else they're going to get blown out. You know, like, and it seems like that's the kind of game that would be easy for them to get up for. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how they bounce back from the North Carolina game. But you know, I think they know the position they're in too. I mean, at this point, they're trying to play for some seeding, and you don't want to get stuck falling down to like an 8-9 game or whatever. So they need to get a couple of wins in these last 4 games.
Looking at the Tar Heels, one takeaway, man, North Carolina is really starting to pick it up. In the month of February, they've now rolled off 5 straight undefeated in February after a 3-game losing streak to end January. And in a year where college basketball and quietly it's kind of just an even playing field, everyone's kind of hovering around the same record. North Carolina seems a team that's picking up momentum. They are the defending national champs. It's looking more realistic that they could put up a real title run to defend their championship. What's kind of what you're seeing with them kind of closing the season out?
Well, I think for Carolina, I feel like Cam Johnson missed the first I believe he missed the first 16 games of the season. It was either first 11 or first 16. I forgot how many he missed. But once he came in and once they started going with this small lineup where Luke May is at the 5 and they're playing 4 guards, I feel like it basically took them a while to get used to playing that style. Because, you know, Roy Williams hates playing that way, but he knows this is his most experienced lineup, and it's for on this team, it's their best chance at winning. So that's what he's gone with this year. And what's crazy about it is he felt like rebounding was going to be a problem since they're playing so small, and their offensive rebound percentage is second in the nation right now. Like there hadn't been much of a drop off at all in terms of the rebounding, despite playing small. So they've kind of been able to get over on playing small. But since none of them really had experience playing that way, it's taken them a while to kind of get into a rhythm, especially since Cam Johnson was hurt early and didn't join them. So, you know, everybody was kind of feeling their way through it. And so I think part of that was why they lost those 3 games in a row to Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, and Clemson. But now I feel like after the Duke win, it kind of changed everything for them. And I feel like there's a different level of confidence there. It never was like they didn't have confidence, but winning that game at home just kind of sent them to the next gear. So, you know, they're definitely playing well right now. Obviously, you got Joel Berry, Theo Pinson, Luke May, who were key parts of the championship team last year, and for that matter, the Final Four run 2 years ago when they lost to Villanova. So that, you know, you're gonna have to deal with that.
That's a lot of experience,
like
there.
Having that kind of experience, yeah, they're not gonna go down easy. I'll say that. But it's also, you never in the tournament, man. It's gonna come down to matchup too. You know,
I got a lot of help last year.
I don't get into refs. They got help from who? Come on, man.
The Arkansas game, Kentucky game, Gonzaga game. It's just a sour fan, man. We feel we got cheated that game.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, y'all did. Y'all were up 5. UK was up 5 in that game with like 3 minutes left. Close it out. That's all. Just close it out.
At number 32, when you got a number 32 wide open, it always bites us in the ass. But no, honestly though, with everything you just said, how do you feel the chances of y'all repeating are?
Well, I went there, but it ain't y'all. It's them.
With North Carolina. Damn, there you go. With them.
So, I mean, I'm still not putting it very high right now. You know, to me, they would have to win out the regular season, which includes winning at Duke at the last game of the season. Like they have kind of more to prove to me. Like I wouldn't put them up there. I wouldn't put them in the Final Four right now. They are playing well. They're playing better than they were, you know, at the end of January. But I still have to see more before I'm ready to say they're going to defend the title. It's just they have inconsistencies from Cam Johnson and Kenny Williams scoring wise. Like when those two people score for Carolina, they're tough to beat because Barry is going to get his point. May is usually going to get his point. Theo Pinson is probably he's one of the best all-around players in the league in terms of, you know, filling out the stat sheet and making plays for them. So they you know, they spread you out when Williams and Johnson are making shots. But the thing is, they don't always make shots. I mean, last night at U of L, Cam Johnson was 5 of 13. Like he didn't have a great shooting night. And really, Luke May didn't start off having a good shooting night. Somebody said I jinxed U of L because I tweeted out that Luke May was, when he was 3 for 12, I was like, you know, and all 3 of those shots that he made at that point were just offensive rebound putback. So, you know, I said it looked like his run was coming to an end because he 4 games this year he's been held under 10 points. And so the Notre Dame game they just won, he only scored 8 points. The previous 4 games, he averaged 25 a game after he's coming off of those single-digit scoring efforts. So, you know, I tweeted out, like, it don't look like he's getting no 25 a night, basically. And so after I tweeted that, he was 5 of 6 to end the game. He had 3 three-pointers and ends up with 19 points. So, you know, I had some U of L fans saying I jinxed him after that on Luke May. But, but you know, it's just that's the thing with Carolina, man. If they're scoring, if they're shooting well, they can beat anybody. But it's just a matter of you can't always trust them to do that. You can't trust their shooting every game in and game out.
So, is the absence of Raymond Felton's nephew, is that of any concern going down the stretch of the season?
It's not, because he wasn't playing a ton anyway. He was really just getting reserve minutes. If anything, that'll be something for the off season, because I don't believe there's any chance of him coming back this year. So yeah, that'll be something they just deal with later. He was somebody definitely with talent, and they thought that, you know, he could be a contributor, but he was never going to play a huge role on this team this year anyway. So, you know, they did get Seventh Wood back healthy, and this is his 4th game back, I believe. So, you know, they have a viable point guard to back up Barry. And really, honestly, to me, the best backup at point guard is Theo Pinson anyway, for them when they really need somebody. So they'll be fine at that spot without Felton.
I saw an interesting tweet. It said Roy Williams hadn't called a timeout since the Pitt game. Is that true? I know he didn't call one last night. He didn't need any, but if that's true, I mean, the confidence and the way North Carolina's playing is scary.
Yeah, his thing has always been he feels like his players they know what to do. Like, he feels like they've gone over every scenario in practice. So he doesn't believe in calling timeout to break momentum. That's not what he does. They got North Carolina State when they were up on State. Yeah, North Carolina State went on a 19-0 run, and Roy didn't call a timeout during that period. And afterwards, he said he wasn't going to bail his players out by calling a timeout. and he basically just challenged them to get tougher. So it didn't come back to bite him that game. I don't think Roy believes, he's never said this, but I don't think he believes that you can lose a game in the first half. So so that's part of it too. I mean, that run State went on was in the first half, and Carolina ended up being down at the half, but obviously they came back to win. He does have that confidence in his guys. So yeah, it is a little bit quirky and strange and a bit of trivia, but yeah, if you followed Roy at North Carolina, that's just what he does.
So in closing on the Louisville and North Carolina talk, looking at the last four of the Cardinals schedule: at Duke Wednesday, at Virginia Tech next Saturday, Virginia for senior day March 1st, and then at NC State to close the season. That last four. Kind of give us a kind of, I don't know if you want to feel comfortable prediction, but best case scenario, the Cards close the season and kind of secure an NCAA bid.
The best case scenario out of this is I believe 3-1. I don't know that they can win all four games, but best case scenario is 3-1. Worst case scenario is losing all four, and
Season's over.
That would mean they probably need a win in the in the ACC tournament to secure the NCAA bid. But I don't see that either. I think Duke is going to be tough to win, especially Marvin Bagley has missed the last week with a knee sprain. They haven't projected how long he'll be out, but when they first put out the info, they said it was a mild knee sprain. So I would imagine he might be back to that on Wednesday night. Virginia Tech is, they're definitely formidable. Winning at Virginia was huge for them, and they can score on anybody, but they also they can allow anybody to score on them. So I feel like that's a winnable game for U of L. Obviously, Virginia has given U of L fits since they joined, since U of L joined the ACC. But being a home game, being a game where, as I said earlier, these seniors have been through so much at U of L right now. Maybe emotion gets them over the hump in that game. Maybe they're able to crack that Tony Bennett system at Virginia. The thing about Virginia is they don't really blow a whole lot of teams out. Like the way that they play, yeah, it's gonna be low scoring, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that they're running away from you. It can be a low scoring game that you can have a chance at, especially at home. And then NC State to close the season on the road. It is getting to be a tougher place to play with Kevin Keats there. And obviously the styles will be very familiar for both teams. But State isn't at a place right now where that's a game that U of L couldn't go win. They haven't established that yet. And they're still dealing with issues of always coming to play. And even within the course of the game, they'll have lapses where they kind of regress. And that goes back to, Kevin Keats always constantly just trying to change the culture there. So that, I believe that'll be a winnable game too. Yeah. So
gives me a little confidence right there. Gives me a little confidence coming down the stretch.
Yeah. I feel like U of L could be 10-8 in the ACC at the end of the year, and I believe a 10-8 record in conference. Even though the committee isn't exactly looking at that, but I feel like if they're 10-8 in conference, they're getting in.
In comparison, looking at the last three of the Tar Heels, Syracuse, Miami, Duke, not as tough, but it's kind of a little bit more easier to predict. But just looking at them closing the season off. What do you kind of see for the Tar Heels? I
think Carolina will win at Syracuse and win at home against Miami, and I think Duke gets them in the rematch in Cameron. would be Grayson Allen's final home game in the Duke uniform. It's going to be charged there. Obviously, they'll want some payback from the first meeting. And in that first meeting, Marvin Bagley went 10 minutes in the second half without attempting a shot. And I'm pretty sure if I know that, Coach K knows that, and that's not going to happen again. So, yeah, I'd probably take Duke in that regular season finale. So, but it looks like Carolina will be in a good spot to get a double bye going to Brooklyn for the ACC tournament and finish in the top 4 in the league.
Yeah, if that does come true, that would be. I mean, Carolina would finish out the season winning 7 of their last 8. That would be a strong finish for the Tar Heels. After, I don't know if you were at the game, so you probably didn't see it, but throughout the game they were scrolling the bottom of the screen, the comments from Coach Roy Williams saying he's confident that Tar Heels are not a part of the FBI's 2-year investigation. For him to step out on a limb and say that, kind of what are your thoughts on him just, getting out in front of that like that?
Well, I feel like there have been several coaches kind of like that. Tubby Smith comes to mind when everything came out. He said, he can rest easy at night too. It's twofold because, like, on one respect, if you know you haven't done anything, then it's easy to come out and say something like that. But the flip side is, I feel like, when all is said and done, when all of this comes to light, I think a lot of times it's not going to be coaches that are necessarily directly involved in this. I feel like it'll be a runner, an agent runner or whatever, financial advisor or whatever, to a kid's family, a family member or something like that, to where it's going to be removed from the basketball program, but it's still going to be kind of grimy, So we'll see, though. I still have questions about what they actually have, what proof they actually have, because, the first announcement came out in September, and the only official charges were 4 assistant coaches. And with the feds, if they had something on a bigger fish, they would have moved on it. So I'm just skeptical of the whole thing. I know there's a lot of talk, and for years we've always heard talk of people getting paid and, different programs cheating and this and that. But until there's concrete proof in front of me, I keep saying you need more people. We don't believe you. So,
shout out Sean.
We'll see how this all unfolds.
Well, see, we definitely appreciate you giving us some of your time this afternoon. Man, can you let our listeners know where they can catch you on Twitter and on social media?
Yes, I'm not very good on social media, I'll tell you that straight up. But my Twitter handle is @CLBrownHoops. My Instagram is @CLBrown93. And I'll be writing stories. I do an ACC notebook that appears every Monday on our website, The Field House, it's at theathletic.com/fieldhouse.
All right, CL. Well, we appreciate your time, and definitely we will be checking back in with you before the season closes, most definitely.
No doubt. Anytime, man. Let's do this.